inside.
Mm-hmm.
No, I know not to talk. So
Well-
you might not get very much satisfaction out of me. Well, am I being taped right now? First place, I don't remember dates. I don't
Yeah.
take any.
You want me to turn it off?
Yeah, I'd rather you would. Ride anytime they want to and go to the swimming pool and have tennis court right in front of the house. And they could just have lots of fun.
Where were you born?
Huh?
Where were you born?
Where was I born?
Yeah.
Sydney, Nebraska. Now, where are you going to publish that information?
Oh, that's just, it's not going to be published.
All right.
That's just for information. When's your birthday?
April 21st, 1888. We do that figuring now. April 21st coming up pretty soon.
Certainly is.
It's 1888.
You'll be 95.
Fine, that's what's right. That's why my children are all coming home. They're coming in today, starting in. One comes today, one or two comes tomorrow. One's already in Oklahoma City with her sister, and they'll be coming over. They're coming over tomorrow. I have 5 of them.
You have 5 kids? How long do you live in Sydney?
Oh, until I was 6 years old. Then we went to Cheyenne, Wyoming. My dad used to work at Cheyenne, Wyoming for the express company, and then he was transferred to Sydney. While he was in Sydney, I was born, then he was transferred back to Cheyenne,
You said the express company.
Sydney, Nebraska.
I mean, you said he worked for the express company?
Uh-huh.
What express company?
I don't know what it was. That's so many years ago when I was a
What's
kid.
your father's name?
Huh?
What's your father's name?
My father's name? Pillsbury. What do you want all that for if he's going to not publish it?
Oh, just background information.
Huh?
Just background information. Was Pillsbury his first name?
Pillsbury, Elijah, or Elisha. They had 2 sons, and one was Pillsbury. That was Papa. Elisha, and the other one was, I don't know. Anyway, same initials. And so Papa changed his around, put it Pillsbury, Elijah, and the other one was Percy something, I don't know why. So Papa changed his and put down, his initials were P.E. Really were E.P., and both of them were E.P. Edgar, I believe, got his picture up there, over there.
What's your mother's name?
Last name? Rinker, Teresa Rinker.
Where's your father from?
New Hampshire, somewhere around the woods there. Mine is New Hampshire. And my mother came from Illinois.
Was your father in the Civil War?
No, my grandfather was.
What was his name?
Rinker.
Rinker.
That was my mother's father.
You ever talk about the Civil War?
Well, yes, some. I never met him. I had a picture of him in his uniform, and he was wounded, and I know told us about how when he came home, wherever he lived, and he was on some conveyance, and he was lying on the floor, somebody, and he kept kind of stepping over him or something, you know. He took out his penknife and stabbed one of him in his leg or something, because he was wounded. He was hurting. And that's about all I know about that. But I had his picture. I don't have it now. We have one. My uncle had one enlarged and colored for each one of the children. And of course my mother had it, and I don't know which one. I don't know where it is in the family now. I don't have it.
Mm-hmm. And your father worked for the express company?
Mm-hmm.
Did you live on a farm?
What?
Did you live on a farm?
No. I always lived in town.
You did. How big is Sydney?
Well, it was a small place, but it's pretty big now. I don't know how. I know it wasn't very large.
Was it a farming community?
I don't know. I was too young to know.
What about Cheyenne? How big was it?
Well, it's large, it's capital of Wyoming,
Yeah.
and it was larger.
How long did you live there?
Well, I got married in 1908.
So you met your husband there.
That's where I met my husband.
Do you remember the Spanish-American War?
Uh-huh.
Do you remember the Spanish-American
Oh,
War?
I remember, I would guess.
Did
Well,
anyone...
if I'd turned my hearing aids up, maybe I'd hear you better. All right.
How many men from Cheyenne went to the Spanish-American War?
Oh, I don't know.
Hmm.
How do you not think a person knows all that stuff?
Where'd you meet your husband?
Cheyenne, Wyoming, at church.
What was his name?
Irene Nelson Potts. You're going to write a book about this, aren't you?
Did he always work for the Army?
Civil service.
Civil service?
Except during the First World War, he got a commission. But he wasn't in good enough health to go across, so we sent him to New York. And we lived in New York for, quite a while. And the war was over and they put him back into civil service. They went to Mount Clemens, Michigan. He lived there till he came down here. They put us down here and forgot us.
What's in Mount Clemens, Michigan?
Hmm?
What's up in Mount Clemens, Michigan?
I don't know. We lived out at Fort. I know we lived out on the reservation. I can't think of it.
How big was Fort Reno when you first came down here?
Oh, not so as it is now. No, it was larger than this because they've gotten smaller. They've taken people. It was very active when we came down here. Horses. And we had the best horses, you know, those wonderful horses. And when we came, they said they took better care of horses than they did of the people. They always got first choice, first attention.
What kind of horses were they?
Oh, well, if you'll name some of the big famous horses, I could tell you whether some of them were here, but I can't.
You mean like the quarter horses or the
Yeah.
Morgan horse?
Well, yes, but they had names. Oh, they were wonderful horses. And they just took real care of them and bred them. And that's what the fort was.
So they mainly bred horses at Fort Reno then.
Uh-huh.
What'd your husband do there?
Chief Clerk, the quartermaster's office. That was.
Chief Clerk. What did the Chief Clerk do?
Well, he has other folks under him, and I guess he kind of tells them what to do. And there's the responsibility of the work that is in the office.
Can you tell me what Fort Reno looked like when you lived there?
Well, yes, I've got a picture of it. If you want to go in, I've got my door open so my daughter has the warm room. It's kind of my spare room. Go in and you can turn on the light, but be sure and turn it off. And it's over those two windows. So you'll see what it is. It's a panorama, just takes it. Now there's a light right at the door there, and then there's one over by the closet door.
I see it, yeah.
I'll make you do the walking because I don't like to get up and walk.
Yeah.
Did you find it?
Yes, ma'am.
And we lived in one of those houses at the very end. We lived in about the third house. Now, did you turn the light off?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I bet you don't get to do this when you go to other places. But I just don't get up and do any more walking than I have to.
What was the house like you lived in?
Well, that was a picture of it. You saw one of them.
Yeah.
Well, it's a big great big two-story house, about 4 rooms on the first floor. Same up, we had the first floor out there. No, we had the whole house. But you just start in the kitchen, go to the dining room, and just right around like that, you know. Come in the front door, hall, walk into the dining room. Oh, it's not anything, just a common place. But we lived there. That was officers' quarters, but my husband, they gave civilians places to live, and they had them. So we lived there quite a while.
Who was the commanding general of Fort Reno when you went there?
I don't know whether it was, I can't tell you for sure, but it seems to me it was Major Weeks, commanding officer. I can't tell you for sure.
How long did your husband work there?
Well, he came in 22, and he retired. I don't know when he retired. He worked there several years, and then his eyes went by. And, well, he had to retire, but he was at retirement age. So, I can't tell you. I told you I didn't remember dates. My husband could tell you a lot of that, but I can't get him to tell you now. That's a secret. You can't depend on these dates for me at all.
What was
I
it
know a
like?
few of them.
Oh, excuse me.
That's all right.
What was life like on Fort Reno?
Well, it was all right. Of course, we favored the military, but people were nice, and the officers were nice to us. And the children just liked it because they had all the advantages that the officers' children had. They had a nice big swimming pool, and that's all gone now. And then they had tennis court, 2 or 3 of them right across the street from our house. And what did I tell you about that house? I didn't tell you that was Fort Reno.
Yeah.
That's not. That's Fort Russell, where we live. Oh, that's not Fort Reno.
Okay.
That's Fort Russell, so forget it.
Okay.
We lived there.
I was going to say I didn't think it was Fort Reno.
And I was describing Fort Russell House to you. Now, this one out here, there were 2 families lived above us. It was a large house. We had the first floor. We had our children, 5, so we had the whole floor. But we had to get we had commissary out there. We could buy our groceries there, things that we needed other than what we could put there. We had to phone in that truck would go in and pick it up and deliver it to us.
How many soldiers were stationed at Fort Reno?
How many what?
Soldiers?
Well, at first there were quite a few, but they dwindled down. I don't know, they didn't do very much. You ought to have Ed Fox here. He's not in town now, but I bet you he could tell. He was a barber out there.
Ed Fox? Where does he live?
Over here on Duane, but he and his wife go down south. That's where they are. I don't know when they're coming back. Go and stay several months at a time. He was a barber out there, and he could tell you a lot about the soldiers and what the barracks, things like that.
Were there schools on post for the kids?
They didn't here. They did some. We had time with getting our children into a school. El Reno wouldn't take them because they'd have to come in. We finally got out to Darlington. And then finally, I don't know what happened, El Reno would take us. And we sent a bus in. The military did. Sent a bus, come around every morning, pick them up and bring them home at night. But there was a while, and they had school out there in a building just back of headquarters isn't there now. Built a new headquarters, tore down these others. Had teachers come out from here.
Did you belong to any of the wives' clubs? Fort Reno?
No. Civilians didn't belong to anything.
What about the officers' club?
No, no, they didn't belong. They're civilians, they're not officers. I don't know what clubs they had. Well, the officers were very nice to us and all that, but socially, you're just down a little ways.
What salary was your husband making out there?
What?
What salary was your husband making them?
I don't know exactly. I just can't tell you.
When was Fort Reno built?
Well, that information, I think, is given in that book.
Okay.
That's way back. You know about General Sheridan?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had a hut or something out there. You know, maybe he was out there, I don't know. That book ought to tell you a lot of that. Probably contradict what I'm saying.
Did you always live on post out there
And where?
at Fort Reno?
Till we moved into town.
When did you move into town?
It's another date. Go out and look on the sidewalk out there when they had the new driveway put in. Somebody put the date in there. I don't know. I won't tell you.
How many years have you lived in this house? Do you know?
No, can't tell you. We've lived here ever since we moved into town. I don't know when we moved into town. You think I'm a numbskull, but I don't care about dates. I live a day at a time and let them go. Forget them.
Mm-hmm. What's your favorite memories of Fort Reno?
Well, I don't know. There were the Christmas parties, I guess, we gave for the children, all the children. They did accept the civilian children there, and they allowed them, the children, privileges. The children of the officers and our children mingled. They went to school together, but the adults didn't mingle much.
How come?
Hmm?
How come?
I don't know. But the children that go to school, you know, they get out and play together. They don't care.
Where were these Christmas parties held?
Well, I call it the recreation hall, I guess. And they hold parties there, dances, things. But they always had in front of the barracks, there's a great big natural Christmas tree, great big tree. They always had that decorated. And they always gave the children, they had a committee, the officers' wives would take care of it, you know, and they'd get the names of the children, and they'd have a gift for them. They were nice to us.
In the 20s, were there many flappers at Fort Reno?
I don't think they did.
What about the Depression? Did that affect you much at the fort?
No, I don't think it did because we had our regular salary, and we just had to be careful about it.
Did the military increase or decrease during the Depression, the 30s?
I don't know whether they, you know, they go there, they're stationed there for so many years. When their time's up, maybe they're transferred.
Oh, what else you want to tell me about?
I don't know. I want to tell you about anything. I know. Well, I won't say. I just know that I'm happy and had a happy home wherever I go.
Well, that's good. What was the best place you were stationed with your husband? What was the best fort?
Well, I suppose Fort Reno because we lived there first. Mount Clemens is where I told you about that. That was where we lived. That was an Air Force base or something. Had the airplanes there. Well, I went wherever my husband was said. I went, and maybe I hated to leave, but I knew I'd have to make the best of it. And it always suited me. We made friends wherever we went.
How many kids do you have?
How many? I've got 5.
How many grandkids?
Oh, land. Don't come. I've got them all listed down there. You wouldn't believe it. I've got great-grandchildren and I got great-greats. I can tell you, I think I got about 2 or 3 great-greats.
Are you Eastern Star?
Huh?
Are you Eastern Star?
Am I what?
Eastern Star.
Yes, I'm an Eastern Star.
I am
I've
too.
seen the star in the east. Oh, did you notice that, didn't you? Uh-huh.
I'm Masons and Eastern Star.
You are?
I'm a Mason and an Eastern Star.
Yeah, my husband was a Mason. I'm an Eastern Star. Been worthy matron. Been a deputy for 4 or 5 years. Go around.
They have the Masons, they have a Masonic temple on Fort Reno.
No,
Had to come in town then.
my husband, that little plaque above there, he was on the building committee of this new temple that they have here. And that's a plaque he got. He was an Eastern Star too, so we could go together.
I was supposed to be worthy patron the year my sister was worthy matron, but I moved away.
Oh, my husband was worthy patron. I was worthy matron. I had Did Fox as my worthy patron.
Were there many Masons and Eastern Star at Fort Reno?
Not very many.
Not very many.
There was a sergeant and his wife. We used to come in, we didn't have a car, and we'd come in with them. I don't know about the officers' wives and the men, some of them were, but I wouldn't know how many.
Were the officers' quarters any different than the house you lived in?
Well, no, in a way. The commanding officers is larger and different style, but ours was really an officer's because they didn't have, they had different houses for any of the enlisted men that were married.
Yeah, what they look like, the enlisted houses.
Well, now those are, have you ever been out there?
No.
To Fort Reno? Well, they were just short, built down on the ground. Some of them have been taken down when we moved here. We lived back at headquarters in a little, this was frame. And that wasn't very nice. And then they got these, folks that moved out of them, I guess. They tore those down. We moved over into the other part of the fort.
Did they close the fort long after you moved in town?
Well, no, it isn't really closed. It's, the government is, the college, or Stillwater, I think, kind of has something out there now. But they still have soldiers out there.
They do.
Well, maybe they don't. I don't know. But I think they do. Maybe it's all civilians, I don't know, since they've taken it over and have it more agricultural and experimental, I guess, I don't know.
What kind of work did you do during World War II?
Who?
You.
My husband.
Did you do any work for the war effort?
Oh, I helped with the Red Cross over here at where the Heritage, in that red building.
Yeah.
Depot then. When the trains had come in, I had a white uniform and the cap and insignia on my arm and all that. Go over and work. And when they go through here, soldiers get off, or we serve them coffee and donuts, exactly. Anything we could help them. Had quite a organization.
Was your husband still at Fort Reno at that time?
I was at Fort Reno the whole time we were here.
I mean, during World War II, was he still working at Fort Reno?
Yeah.
What were you doing when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor?
I know I was standing at the kitchen window there, washing my dishes or something, when I got the news. It just went on. I don't know what Fort did.
But was there a big celebration when the war ended at Fort Reno?
Well, I don't recall.
Did you do any work for the World War I war effort?
No, took care of my children. No.
Well, this is World War I, 1917, 1918.
Well, that's when my husband was in Washington, New York.
Yeah.
He was in the officer's office, store.
Mm-hmm.
He had charge of that. And no, I just didn't go. I had enough to do. I never did go out and work. I did a little work around home. Fort Reno, not Fort Reno. Fort Warren used to be Fort Russell. And we lived in a house just in front of the hospital. And the soldiers, they wanted pies, so I used to make some pies so many times a week. But I never went out with it. I could take in, I had a board or so once or twice, but I thought the woman's place was in the home. My duties to my children.
Mm-hmm. The big house you lived in at Fort Reno, was it brick or frame?
Brick.
Brick.
There were very few frame houses. The one north of us, I guess it was north, I know it was on that side of us, that was frame. But they didn't have very many frame houses. And that was just one ground floor. But they have changed. They built a new hospital out there.
Can you describe the house that you lived in at Fort Reno?
I can describe it as a two-story house, and stairs came in from the front, and two families lived upstairs, and we had the lower. And there was just, we had a living room, and we had the living room, and the next one, I don't know what they called it, a kind of library, but I had to name them and place the children, you know. I don't know how many rooms we had. We had the kitchen, the dining room, and the living room, and 3 or 4 bedrooms, and bath. And the upstairs was about the same.
Did you ever meet anyone that knew Ben Clark?
What?
Ever meet anyone that knew Ben Clark? You've heard of Ben Clark, haven't you?
No.
He was an Indian scout at Fort Reno.
He was what?
An Indian scout.
Oh, I
You know his daughter-in-law?
don't know. I might, but I don't know what's her name.
Clark.
Oh, her daughter-in-law, of course. No, I don't know. As far as I know, I don't know her. I know some Clarks, but I don't think they belong.
Well, I think that's all the questions I have, unless anything else you want to tell me.
Well, I'm not full of information. I can't tell you anything more.
I'll try to contact Ed Fox.
Well, I don't know when you'll find him home. When it gets a little better weather,
Yeah.
looking home.
And you say your son has some stories about Fort Reno?
Well, just probably, well, he could tell you the mischief they were in, I suppose.
Yeah. What's his name?
Potts, Arthur. He's the one that I'm expecting over here He said he'd be here about 2:15. He's waiting for the plane, and they called me. He's not here yet.
He lives in Oklahoma City? Is he in-
His address if you want to.
Yeah.
And I tell you how he works now. Sunday, he's retired, but he's working for a cement company. But on Saturday and Sunday, he is on call. He's got to stay right at home to be able to go down and check in and check out cement trucks, see that they're filled, this, that, and the other. But other days, he works. Six 685-1405. That's his telephone number, same.
685-1405.
685-1405. And it's 30 Southwest 37th Street, I don't know.
Yes.
All right, if you want his address, if you'll open that lower door.
Well, I'll just call him on the telephone.
Oh, well, all right.
Yeah.
You may meet him if he comes in. He'd better be getting here. They haven't quite a time. They went to Air Force, to get the planes. My daughter got mixed up in when she's going to come or something. And he's been there twice, and finally gets back to he was going for the time that she gave him the first time. They had some trouble. They was having a strike, and it messed up all her plans, I guess. And so she told him he's coming in at 1:40 or something like that today. I knew she was coming today. He was coming in about 1:40. Then she told him no, they had to change it, and she's coming in some other time. So he went out. They went out there to meet him, and they got back to the last report was that she's coming in at the time that she said in the first place. Well, she got to Denver, and there was some trouble. So anyhow, I said, well, when she gets here, just bring her along.
Yeah. Did any presidents ever visit Fort Reno?
Did who?
Any presidents visit Fort Reno while you were there?
No. Not that I know of, no.
In the 1920s, did you support women's suffrage?
What do you mean? I believe in it. I guess. Don't ask me those questions.
You know,
I believe a woman, if she's working at a man's job, she should get a man's. I don't believe in a woman working anyhow. But during the war, they did. I have some friends went over here and worked. Oh, just really man's labor. But she should have man's pay.
Some of your friends here in town,
Uh-huh.
they still living here?
Uh-huh.
What are their names?
It worked.
Yeah.
Mrs. Simmons. Well, don't you go and call on her. She's not well. And
She's not.
no, but she did go out and do manual. Oh, I think she did welding and things like that. I don't know, but I know she did work over there.
What's her first name?
Marion. She just lives over here, block. Over this corner and a block down there, right on the corner.
Well,
Yellow.
I'll call her one of these days, see how she's feeling.
Yeah, and she's quit driving, almost quit driving. Well, she isn't well. But I don't know. I feel the man's the head of the house, and the woman's place is in the house helping her husband, and do what she can. That's what my husband. He didn't care. He didn't want me to work to begin with. But I didn't believe in it anyhow. I think we should stay at home and take care of the family. I think these people miss out on a lot. Goes out and works and comes home tired and cranky and
As chief clerk, you say your husband had people working under him?
oh yes. He had other clerks.
I mean, was he in charge of all the pay for the soldiers or what?
Well, in charge of payroll and things like that. He had the responsibility of an office, like any man that's in an office in his boss,
What building was his office in?
headquarters.
Headquarters. What else you want to tell me?
Hmm?
What else you want to tell me?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing that I know of.
What's your favorite childhood memory?
My favorite childhood memory?
Yeah.
Oh, can't do nothing. I know. My mother was mighty good to all of us children. I know what she did for me. I had spinal curvature of the spine. She noticed it and took me to the doctor. I had a lump on the shoulder, a big one. There were 3 of us girls in the block. I lived on this corner. Maud Guston lived on that corner. Paget girl lived on that corner. We all had tumors in the spine. 2 of them had doctor osteopaths. And my mother, so our doctor's sister was an osteopath. Mama didn't want her. No, and we couldn't afford any special doctor. So the doctor says, I'll give you some instructions, and you work on them. See what you can do. And my mother took me and followed the doctor's instructions. She put me on the table, and my one leg was an inch or so shorter than the other. And she'd get a hold of that leg, and she'd pull it and hold it so long. And then she had exercises he gave me, and she would watch everything for any advertising or anything. They advertised, what'd you hang up on? Well, something. Well, see, I can't afford that. So she had the carpenter come in, put a pole in the doorway. And then she got a rope, put it around that, and had a towel or something tied around my neck. She pulled me up, and I hung in that doorway, my feet free from the floor, and she'd get back at me and push against the curves. That was one thing. And then she had a big jar of salt, rock salt, dissolved as much of it as she could in the water. She still had, at the bottom of the jar was a lot of salt. And she had that when I'd go to bed and I'd put that on the back of her until it got hot. And there was osteopath moved in across the street from us, and he had some children. We got to play together. And one day he said to her, he said, Mrs. Snow, he says, when you have Irene on the table sometime, call me over. So she saw him going out to get a pail of coal. They had coal stoves then. And so she called him, said, Doctor, I'm calling. He said, all right. So he came over. And she just stood there, and he did some things to my back. She watched him just exactly how he did. Pushed his hand against a curve and lifted me up my legs to turn me, and so she took up that. And, I came out without very much deformity. I had my hip was a little large, and I guess there's a little curve or so in my back. Those other 2 girls have great big humps on their back. Didn't do a bit of good, and that's what my mother did for me. And we had typhoid fever there, an epidemic, and we couldn't get nurses, and there's so many dying. My father had typhoid fever, and he had a carbuncle on his neck. My brothers got typhoid fever, and I had the symptoms. I didn't go to school. I landed in bed, so I didn't have it. And Mama had to just go right around one bed together. There are about 3 of them that she's taking care of. And she wasn't, well, she worked herself down till she got heart trouble. And she was through, she didn't lose a one. We didn't have a death family. And she just was up night and day. And we came through it all right, but she didn't. She was sick ever after that. She developed heart trouble, dropsy, and that's all. But anyway, they tried to do their best for us. It wasn't like people nowadays, they couldn't get along.
What year was that typhoid epidemic?
Hmm?
What year was that typhoid epidemic?
What do we do?
What year was that typhoid epidemic?
I don't know. That's a
No.
date.
How old were you?
Well, I was in, I guess I was in grade school, so you can figure, I don't know.
What about the flu epidemic of 1918? You know, during World War One.
I guess I don't know anything about it. And we didn't have it, I guess.
What else you want to tell me?
Nothing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Oh, I just tell you I'm happy and feel fine, except I don't like to walk. It doesn't hurt me anymore. I'm taking some medicine for, I guess it's arthritis. But I'm taking that aloe vera, that they're advertising so much now. I think that's helped me a lot. So the pain that I started taking it for is gone. I had it in my shoulder.
What do you have, arthritis now?
I guess that's what it is. I take arthritis medicine. Doctor gives me arthritis medicine, so I guess that's what it is. But it doesn't pain me. See, on my fingers, a little bit, but not bad. But my knees, and the pain is nearly all gone all the time. Once in a while, they hurt me. And I quit driving my car when I was 94 years old, of course. I thought that was, well, in fact, I was in the hospital about 12 days for surgery. The day before I left, I said, Doctor, when may I drive my car? Now, if you want to, but I'd rather you wouldn't, because I know folks didn't think I should be driving. And I couldn't see why I shouldn't be driving. Doctor told one woman, he says she has a clear mind, there's nothing wrong with her. And so some of the women in the church, well, you shouldn't drive, and I knew that they didn't want to ride me, so I didn't ask them to, but the one that talked so much about it, she rode with me finally. And anyway, I said, well, when I drive, he says, now if you want to, but I'd rather you wouldn't. I said, all right. Well, I thought it was coming right out. And could drive the next day. Well, I went out to hang up. I used to hang my flag. It's in the corner there. I used to hang it out on that post out there. And one day I went out there to hang my flag up after I was home from the hospital. I got in the middle of the porch. I couldn't move with my foot. I stood there holding my flag. I looked over at that railing. I said, how am I going to get over to that railing? I can't move. Well, my next door neighbor, Mr. Porter, he had been out and seen me, but he went back in and he thought, well, he'd better look out again. I was still standing there. So he came over, took my flag out of my hand, put it over by the railing, got a hold of my arm, and I said, Mr. Porter, I said, I can't move my foot. I can't walk. So he took my arm, and I guess he thought if he gave me that support, I'd start off. Well, I just stood there. So I thought I was falling. I said, Mr. Porter, I'm falling. Catch me. He got around back of me and held me under my arms. Well, there was a lady who had taken her youngsters to school and was going back. Well, she stopped, and she said she'd seen us there when she went by the first time, so she came back to see. Or no, on her way back, we were still there. She thought we were having trouble, so yeah, well, they couldn't one got on each side of me. They couldn't move me. Well, finally, I don't know how they did, whether they reached down and pulled it up or what, but they finally got me in here, got me in this chair. So I called the doctor and told him what had happened, and he kind of mumbled and blubbered, Finally, he says, it might have been a light stroke, but he didn't say it was. I said, all right, doctor, quit driving my car right now. I've stopped. I'm not going to hang my flag out anymore. And I haven't. I just came. Well, I haven't had any desire to drive the car. I haven't felt it. Unless it's been an emergency. I just didn't feel like driving. And I haven't since I got home. So that's why I quit, because I said, if I had had that and had my foot on the accelerator, I might have killed somebody. And I might not have been, it might not have been a stroke. He just said it might have been. Or I didn't do any driving much more than going over to the grocery store, because I can't walk over there. I'd drive over there and get my groceries and come home. Well, I could have just slammed right through that grocery store. So I had sense enough to quit. They didn't have to tell me to quit. I knew
Did it happen anymore?
No, I haven't had another smell. And that woman came back after she went home. She wanted to get my breakfast for me. I said, no, I just eat some cereal. Will she get me a cereal? No, I said, I'll stay in this chair, I said. I wasn't feeling bad, but just kind of worn out, I guess. So Mr. Porter said, well, he would go on. And I said, well, how do you feel, Mr. Porter? No, he isn't well. And how do you feel? How are you? Well, he says, I'm tired, so I'll go home. And she called back to see how Mr. Porter was, and I waited a while. I told him he was all right. But she came back then, and she said, go on, let's go out and have some breakfast. So I went out and had my breakfast, but I never had it since.
That's good. Well, thank you.
Now you got a lot of it, didn't you? We strike the right thing, I guess I talk. Talk too much.
Tell us more about Fort Reno.
It's all right. My children, my one boy that's trying to find my daughter, helped set out trees along the roadway out there. In fact, we brought in 2 or 3 trees, got 2 of them, one died from the forest. Those are Fort Reno trees out there. They changed the highway in getting in. I don't know why they did, but we went out differently than we used to to get onto the highway to come into town. And that's where they planted new trees.
Yeah.
Farmer, or in a certain area, so many square miles, they would put a stallion. And then that stallion was supposed to be used to breed all the neighbors' horses and mares that came in there. That's how they brought the bloodline of horses. Just ordinary horses ran over the farm, brought them up by using thoroughbred breeding stock. That was one of their projects. And the other, the remount, it's a remount post, that's what they call it. There's only 3 in the United States. And there's Fort Reno and Fort Russell, Virginia.
Right there in Michigan.
Fort Russell, Nebraska. Those are the 3. And those places were supplied the Army with horses. So back, well, I guess up through World War I, everything was horses. Your artillery, you had your caisson, each caisson had 6 horses, each cannon had 6 horses. And then you had your cavalry, which they were all mounted. Well, those horses came from these 3 remount stations. The way they did it, they had a purchasing board, the board of officers, 1 veterinarian, and they go out through the country and they buy horses. Supposedly they were broke to ride. Of course, they get a bunch of them, and they weren't. Then they would go out for Reno, and they had a bunch of civilian cavalry hired that would break these horses. They would break them, get them ready for saddle, and then broke. They'd ship them out, just like anything else. You put in a requisition, I need so many horses down here at Fort Sill. Fort Reno would load them up and ship them out. And that was the reason for Fort Reno. Yeah, that's quite a place out there. You ever been out there?
No, never had.
No.
They've got a cemetery out there. All people around here call it Coyote Hill. It sits way back out in one of the pastures way up on a hill. And they have old-time Indian scouts going way back here into the
they got the Italian and the German across
Well,
the,
Yeah,
Are
across
those
the,
they're
during World War
prisoners of war?
II, they had at Fort Reno over on the east,
northeast corner.
northeast corner, they had a big POW prisoner of war camp over there. They had both Italian and German,
Hello?
so we've got a bunch of
Yeah?
Germans and
Yeah.
Italians that are buried out there.
Okay, well, be around sometime soon. My daughter just walked in the door, and so
One of our
we're,
commanding officers is
she
buried
just
out
came from
there,
California.
Major Weeks.
Okay, well, I'm glad it's ready. All right.
Now, the
There's
man-
several that I knew personally that are buried here, but it goes way back to these Indian scouts.
I think Ben Clark is buried out
Yeah, I
there.
think Ben Clark's one of them, and I know a bunch of
Yeah.
That's when I asked you about.
I tell you, I didn't know anything about it. I didn't.
Who
Major
we got, it
Weeks
was
is
with
out there,
Patton
he-
during, Ward, Two.
Oh, an ex-commanding officer
Yeah, was,
out of Fort Reno.
Major Weeks is there.
Major Weeks is buried there.
Was he when we came? Who was commanding
Jones.
officer? Weeks?
Alex Jones.
Jones?
He was commanding officer
Was
when
he
we got
before
there.
Weeks?
Jones was there when we got there.
Oh, I forgot.
I think there were one or two after Jones before Weeks came. There was, Hobart R. Gay.
He was never commanding officer out
Yeah,
there.
Yes,
Hobart R. Gay
was
was
he?
the commanding officer of Fort Reno.
yeah, he used to live out there in that
And
little.
Hobart
he
R.
lives there.
Hobart R. Gay is the officer that was with General Patton when Patton received his injuries and killed him. Hobart R. Gay is, where was it we went? And I made that over here, I look up the history on it, and sure enough, it told all about Hobart Gay.
Oh, at his museum on this last trip.
Patton Museum.
Yeah, Patton Museum.
The one at Patton Museum, and she went back there and looked up a book that had a story in there and mentioned Hobart R. Gay. Well, we all knew Hobart R. Gay when he was a captain,
That's the other guy.
and he retired as a general. He was a general when he was with Patton, but he was a captain,
I did a
and
story on
then he was promoted to major, and I don't know how many years he served as a commanding officer there.
Now you're getting some information.
He's the one that hired me. No, I was the boss painter when I went in and did his quarters, you remember, and he came to me and complimented me. Said that he'd had a lot of work done being in the Army as long as he had, but this is the cleanest and the fastest and the nicest paid job I've ever had done in a set of military quarters. Well, I had a bunch of civilian painters, see, and they knew how to do it. Other
That was at the Commanding General's headquarters.
That was a commanding officer
Commanding officer.
at Fort Reno.
Did we not have a commanding general or commanding officer?
Just commanding officer at Fort Reno. Commanding general, I guess he's out of Pentagon. Commanding general, he's way off. But I guess the highest ranking officer that we had there was a colonel. I don't know whether he was a full colonel or not, I know Shelley. Shelley was a colonel. As far as I can remember, he was the highest ranking officer we ever had at Fort Reno.
Now, is he the one that lives right there by the road almost comes right to his back door?
You mean now?
That was Colonel. No, there's none of them out there now.
No, I mean, that's where he lived though, wasn't it?
No,
No,
he lived right in the commanding officer's quarters. You
right
remember
up
the
there
fountain
in
and
the
that
great
green
big house,
across
the
the
middle.
street over there?
Yeah.
Had the big fish bowl there in the fountain. Well, that house is the commanding officer's quarters. That's where all commanders are.
How much of Fort Reno is still left out there, the old building?
Now?
No,
Yeah.
right.
Oh,
Our
I
house
think,
isn't.
yeah, just a lot of them
Yeah.
are still left.
In fact, you ought to get in the car and take him out there and show it to him.
Will someday you wanna.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd better go see Mrs. Brown.
But,
The house we
You
lived
go
in
down
is
there
torn down.
It is.
we've got a creek down there called Target Creek. We call it Target Creek was because back there in the old days, they had their target butts up. That's where the old time soldiers did their shooting. You go down there and dig around and you get a ton of lead, those old fashioned bullets they used to shoot. Down on Target Creek and Spring, dig them out.
Those mini balls and all that.
No, you don't find those, you just find the rifle in it.
Yeah.
It's about a size 44, but they were made differently than they make them now. And they're solid lead, they're not, no steel jacket on them.
Mini balls. Now, is that what we saw when we went into the battlefield at Where you had your,
Gettysburg?
no, where you had your car trouble, when we were going to, honey, it was not, when we were going to Florida. Was that Gettysburg? Gettysburg's up here.
When I had a flat, or the wheel come out the trailer,
No, when we was going to Florida, and, it was all along the bank of,
that was in Vicksburg, Mississippi.
yeah, wasn't it, was
That's
that
a
what
big
was,
Civil War battle.
those mini balls, is that
Yeah,
what was
many
called?
balls and little ones, they put a bunch of them in the cannon,
Yeah.
like you do a shotgun. But,
We hit all of the museums. We had made 2 trips up into, Washington DC area, Gatlinburg, all through up in there.
Fort Reno, you know what it is now, don't you? Or do you?
No.
The, agriculture department took it over when they shut it
I
down.
told you a little bit about that.
First what happened, before we left there, the department that handles the prisons,
Department of Corrections.
yeah, I guess they took a big section of it and put up this institutions down there now, reformatory. That all used to be in Fort Reno. See, Fort Reno originally was 16 sections. So 4 miles one way, 4 miles another. And,
How come you know that?
the prison department took over one section on the far side of the highway, put up this big federal penitentiary, which now is having a hunger strike. It's the 3rd day that prisoners refuse to eat that old slop, they call it. But anyway, I used to go over there and play baseball with the prisoners. They had a ball game there. They have, out here on the highway, is that General Sheridan's headquarters
That used to be out
building?
there.
That was- yeah.
It used to be at Fort Reno, that was General Sheridan's headquarters at Fort Reno for a while.
Well, I didn't know that much,
And
as I
it's-
told you
it's
about
a
that.
log cabin.
So
And all the time we lived there, there was a sergeant and his wife raised a family. The little bitty old lady just about said it here, but that sergeant took that over as his quarters and lived.
It's on the right-hand side
And
if you
they-
go out that way.
They finally loaded it up and brought it in here, it's sitting out here on the highway now, going out to Fort Reno.
So you're pointing in the wrong direction.
Kind of historical.
One of the things I remember out there was that every summer, they'd have a gymkhana. They'd have all the Indians from all over the state would come in and set up their tents out in the middle of the
Yeah.
cowpastures.
Yeah.
Jim Conner, you'll have to look the name up, see what it is, that's what they called it.
That's what they
But
called it.
what it was a polo tournament, mainly.
Well, yes.
Well, they had a lot of
Well,
entertainment.
then the Indians
But
put
the
on their
idea
war
of it, well,
dance.
what they did with the Indians, they would go out here to get some chief and say, Chief, you bring in a gang of your Indians, and we'll furnish you meat. So they'd buy those Indians by giving them meat, they'd give them the beef on hook, let them do their own butchering and everything. And they would bring, this chief would bring in a few of his, and they'd set up their old time teepees in one of the pastures down there, and another group would come in. They'd wind up with quite an Indian city there, just like it used to be. And they'd set them up, and that was every year. This was called a gymkhana, and they would go up on the playground at night, and they would have their Indian dances, all that. That was at night, and during the daytime, they had teams from Colorado Springs and Fort Sill. They had a couple of teams there at Fort Reno, and I don't know where they all came, but they had several polo teams come in, and they'd have these polo tournaments. They had 2 or 3 big polo fields down there. And then the Indians was part of the deal, and they'd have, would you ever hear of Ad Topperswing?
Who?
Ad, A-D, Ad Topperswing. One time he was one of the best shots. He traveled for Remington, was it Remington? But he was a whiz with shooting, and they had him in there put on an exhibition of shooting. It was all kind of a load of 3 or 4 rifles and lay them down here, and then he'd get him a handful of eggs, and throw it up there, and he'd grab one, grab another rifle. You shoot those eggs as they come down with 22 rifle. And he shot one egg, and it broke, went in my shirt pocket of my Sunday shirt. And they
You're
had a
telling
big
him
swimming
about
pool.
what they're doing out there now.
Oh, I started telling him, the agriculture department took it over, and in OSU and the federal department are together and experimental. They experiment with the different kinds of hay, different kind of feed, and they got several different kind of animals, and they just experiment on feeding and raising hay and all that stuff. So that's what he did.
Is this where, is it a calf or a sheep that they have got a plastic thing that they wash its stomach? That they put this, plastic thing over it and they wash the,
I don't, I read about that. But
is it out here?
But Fort Reno is directly across the North Canadian River from Darlington, and Darlington is an old time, it's been several things. It's been an Indian school, it's been an orphan's home,
Masonic,
well, a Masonic orphan's home for a while. And it's just across the river near, old Frank Preno, who is still here in town. When he was a young fella, he was an orphan in Darlington. He'd come across the river, and the fellas up there got to know him, and they'd keep him busy working little odd jobs, and he grew up and became a very good baseball player.
Miss Frank Preno?
Perino,
That's all.
P-E-R-E-N-O, Perino.
Who are some
He
of the
played,
guys over here?
I used to take him up when he joined his team at Salina, Kansas. I'd take him up to Salina in his car and bring his car back, and then he'd play ball all season. And he played for Salina, and I don't remember what league it was,
you
but
got those old timers there, the one like, you know.
Frank Preno's still around town.
Who else is around town that has been out there? He could,
Yeah,
Interview.
Frank could tell him, because Frank was a kid, and he,
Jack Walsh,
the old Jack Walsh.
Jack Walsh wasn't out there any longer than we were.
No, not much.
They came,
longer.
we came
no,
in,
they were there when we came.
just gotten it.